Okay.
Okay.
Today we're going to discuss Chapter 10, Decision Making and Leadership in Groups. And first we're going to talk about generating ideas in groups. There are three main ways to generate ideas. The first one being brainstorming. It's where a group of individuals or a group gets together and they throw out ideas out loud and somebody makes a master list. This gives people, it's supposed to give people, sorry, can we stop for a second?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Today we're going to discuss Chapter 10 about ideas, conflict management, and making decisions in groups. And for generating ideas, there are three main ways to generate ideas. The first one being brainstorming. It's when group members throw out ideas before they're discussed as a group. Everybody throws out as many ideas as they can, and then a master list is created. This is supposed to make people feel free to offer ideas without judgment and be more creative. It was created by Alex Osborne. He was a creativity theorist and businessman who owned his own advertising agency. He had 4 rules for brainstorming. The first being quantity before quality, because he felt if they got as many ideas down, then they can go through the quality of the ideas. The second rule was there was no criticism until the list was created and they discussed each one by one. The third rule was that wild ideas were okay. And the fourth rule was that people were allowed to combine and improve individual ideas. Alex Osborne would take 5 to 12 people in a room, and the walls would be painted bright yellow to create a warm environment. It was supposed to be inviting, so people felt free to be creative. But people felt that they didn't always create unique ideas because people were bouncing off of other people's ideas, and that there was still the fear of judgment. So there's been some changes. One of the main ones being that individuals work alone first, which is how the second idea generating technique was created, nominal group technique. So where individuals write down their ideas alone before the group has a discussion. They select their favorites from their own list, and then a master list is created and it's discussed as a group. It works better if it's done anonymous, so you write down your ideas on a piece of paper, put the paper in the center of a table, and then a facilitator writes all the ideas down so nobody knows whose idea is whose, so there's less fear of judgment. Then the third way to generate ideas was idea write, which is where individuals would write their ideas alone, 3 to 4 ideas on a piece of paper alone, and then put their paper in the center of the table, and each person would grab a piece of paper and go through everybody's ideas, writing comments or criticisms, and they would do this until everybody had read everybody's ideas. And then a facilitator would make a master list of the favorite ideas, and they would discuss them as a group. So now we're going to discuss how groups make decisions. One way is through unanimous consensus. It's where everyone in a group supports a decision. One common example of this is in juries. However, there are 2 issues sometimes with unanimous consensus. One being stalemate, and this is when everybody in a group can't agree on a decision. The second one is false consensus, and it's when everybody agrees, but even if they don't really agree with the idea, they say they agree with the idea, which comes into play later when we discuss groupthink. Another way to make group decisions is through majority rule, which is an example of that is democracies. Another way is through minority rule, and this is when a small number of group members make a decision for the entire group. Expert opinion is another way where a group makes a decision based on the recommendation of an expert in the subject specific area. And the last common way is through authority rule. This is where the leader of a group makes a decision for an entire group. A common example of this is dictatorships.
Okay, the next topic is leaders often share specific traits. All leaders have common traits, physical traits being eye color, gender, or height. Studies show that people perceive women less favorable than men as potential leaders, and they evaluate the work of female leaders less positively than the work of male leaders. Other research has found that people in groups express more negative nonverbal reactions, such as facial expressions and gestures, towards female leaders than male leaders. Psychological traits being self-esteem, temperament, and level of anxiety with communication of a task. None of these traits will determine whether we will be a good leader or not. Most of us can learn to be effective leaders regardless of our traits. Some physical traits, height and physical appearance. Taller people are more likely than shorter people to be nominated or elected to leadership positions. Height is a stronger predictor of leadership success for men than it is for women. Leaders are more likely to be attractive than unattractive. Some psychological traits. Having self-esteem gives us confidence in ourselves. It seems likely that people are better leaders if their self-esteem is higher. Some research more suggested that people who are high self-monitors are able to perceive the needs of others in a group and adapt to their own behavior to meet those needs. Several studies have shown that leaders are more likely to be outgoing and expressive rather than shy and withdrawn. Physical and psychological traits. 3 physical traits can influence who's likely to become a leader and how effective they are perceived to be. 3 traits are sex, height, and physical appearance. Many effective leaders share particular psychological traits, which characteristics of their personality and ways of relating to others. 3 particular traits are self-esteem, self-monitoring, and outgoingness. Leaders enact in distinct styles. Leaders enact distinct styles. Some leaders are democratic. This means that they have leaders in which every member of a group has a right to participate in decision making. Some leaders are autocratic, meaning these types of leaders see themselves as having both the authority and the responsibility to take action on a group's behalf. There are other leaders who are laissez-faire. This is a type of leadership style that often minimal supervision. Exercising power. Leaders rely on exercise of power to achieve their goals. Power is the ability to influence or control people or events. Leaders exercise many forms of power. A few examples of powers are reward power, a form of power based on the leader's ability to reward another for doing what the leader says. Coercive power, a form of power that comes from the ability to punish. Referent power, a form of power that derives from attraction to the leader. Legitimate power, a form of power in which leaders' statuses or position gives them the right to make requests in which the others must comply. Expert power is a form of power that stems from having expertise in a particular area. Informational power, a form of power that stems from the ability to control access to information. Power resides in relationships, not people. Power is relative, meaning that people have power only in relation to other people. No person has absolute power. Each of us exercises power over only particular people in particular situations. An example would be, your manager has power over you, but not over your friends or neighbors. She is powerful only relative to the people who work for her. Power requires recognition. In groups or organizations, powerful people have the power their followers recognize in them. An example would be, a religious leader may exercise referent power over her followers, but she does not have the power over the others who do not share her followers' desires to please and gain her approval.
Managing conflict in groups, competing, concern for self and low concern for others, avoiding, low concern for self and others, accommodating, high concern for others and low concern for self, compromising, moderate concern for everyone, collaborating, high concern for everyone. Avoid groupthink, a situation in which group members seek unanimous agreement despite individual doubts. It was first introduced in 1971 by psychologist Arvin Janis. He found that groups that prioritize group identity instead of individual identity tended to end up using groupthink, and that diversity in groups help reduce that.
Okay, and these are our sources.